Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this special webinar that is hosted today by Bent and Broken podcast, as well as Frank Dialogue Holdings. We are doing this in order to lay a foundation for the launch of a brand new podcast that will be about difficult conversations, particularly focusing on the lot that faces single parents in general, and all other attended issues that relate to all of those kind of challenges. This podcast will be launched on Sunday, this coming Sunday, the 28th of June at 5 o'clock. So we thought we'll have a conversation about why it was formed, what is intended, what its intended purpose is, and also what we intend to achieve with it in generating these new conversations about this very, very important issue. Joining me are Maggie and Sharon, who is the founder of the idea as well as the host of the podcast, and her co-host, Ms. Sharon Mwate. Ladies, welcome and thank you very much for joining in this important virtual launch of your podcast.
Thank you, Prof, and thank you for the warm welcome. Hi, everyone.
Wonderful. Maggie, let me start with you. Give us a sense of what was the whole idea? How did this come about? And why did you think this is the correct time to be talking about these critical issues that bent but not broken will be tackling as a podcast? Maggie?
First of all, I want to greet everybody. Good morning. Still morning. I wake up very early today. First of all, thank you everybody for joining us in this webinar. So what got this idea back in the days during the COVID time? I used to actually run some spaces on Twitter when it used to be Twitter, now it's X. And it would be more about parenting, because seeing the need of parents, first of all, wanting to vent and talk about the challenges they face every day at home with their kids and partners. And then understanding that families are such different, they're not all the same. There's sometimes parents without a partner to help raise their kids, and it comes to a point where you don't know where to cry. So as I slowly came out of the Twitter space, this burning in me that we need a space where families can sit down and talk, and most of all, talk about the challenges and how you come out of that challenge and rebuild this life that we are living at this point. So that was the biggest thing, is that we need to share stories as people and understand that you're not walking alone, and from then onwards you start healing. So that was the biggest, and actually I shared with few people, and I'm so blessed to be around people who support me and love me, who are like, I love this idea, we're gonna go for it. And especially if it's gonna change people's lives and rebuild people's lives and share with other people. Yeah.
Please unmute, Prof.
Oh, sorry. Apologies. You let me talk for so long before you said unmute. Sharon, I was asking what attracted you to the idea, because I know that you're already conducting parallel conversations yourself on various social issues in the social sphere, but this particular one?
Hi, everyone. Firstly, thank you to you, Prof, and Maggie, for finding me suitable to be part of such a beautiful podcast. I've been a motivational speaker and a content creator for quite some time. And when you deal with issues of young people, you always wonder where these problems stem from. You know, we have drug issues, we have teenage pregnancies, they all come to seminars and they are so broken, you know. And I've always wondered that if we had to fix the family structure, where would we even start, you know? So I started creating content that is funny, but addressing real social issues. You know, we laugh about it, but I am telling the truth about single parenting, about absent fathers, about all those dynamics that we see and somehow the society doesn't want to talk about. You know, so when you gave me this platform, I said definitely I want to co-write history with this podcast and address things that have been burning in my heart. So yeah, thanks, Prof.
No, wonderful. No. Thank you for both of you for really throwing yourself into this. I know that you had not even met before, and you met around what really is an exciting project. Can you just give me a sense of to coming to you, Maggie? What stood out for you? You've got a few episodes already in the bag that are ready to roll out. What in your view were the one or two things that stood out for you that surprised you? Because sometimes when you embark on such a thing and you interview guests, you get surprised what comes out of it, and it will be stuff that you didn't even anticipate before. Anything you can share there?
Well, Prof, you have no idea. Every episode we shot, I would look at Sharon and we'd be like, it's God. And then our producer, Gloria and Jess, we would look at each other and we'd be like, we will have guests that know each other. We will have a host that knows the guest, but didn't even know who's coming. So that was like a crazy, and I mean, funny enough, I don't know people. I thought I know people, but I don't know people. I didn't even know Obabu Kumalo. So so he was shocked when I told him, dude, I don't know you. I don't know you. And then I remembered the Kellogg's ad. But the stories that touch me were the siblings, raising siblings. Guys, you must definitely tune in and watch that one. It's coming in the next few weeks. And where are the fathers? Oh my God, I was traumatized for a week. I couldn't stop thinking about that episode, Ubudi sharing his life. I mean, I was like, I thought I knew what is happening out there, but there's so much happening out there that our communities go through. And we find that you think you know, but meanwhile, you know nothing, because you realize that people are struggling, people are going through the most difficult challenges that you wouldn't even think that is what is happening out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sharon, what stood out for you in some of the episodes that you've already shot?
Hey, Tata JJ, I think the crying. You know, I'm such a tough person. You know, people know me as hardcore. Every episode made me cry. So I did not see that coming. I feel like the podcast went, like we did the planning, but something bigger than us was involved in how the production came out. Because we'll have a script and we'll plan with Maggie. This is what we're going to say. When the guests are here, totally different. It takes its own shape, it becomes its own thing. And it's by far one of the best podcasts. And I'm a podcast watcher. This is by far one of the best podcasts in terms of transparency, honesty, and heartfelt emotions, where the presenters are not about pushing the show, but the attention was on the guest and telling the story.
Absolutely. If you've just joined us, we are in a launch webinar for a new podcast that is coming to you this coming Sunday, the 28th of June at 5 o'clock. Bent, but not broken. Maggie, tell me about the name, Bent, not broken. Interesting name. How did this come about? You are muted there, Maggie.
Oh, sorry. I'm laughing because the person that sat down with us the first time, was Noli, she came to me and said, what would you like to call this podcast? And I was like sitting thinking now, because I'm like, ooh, must we use a Venic, must we use the Sizulu, must we use the Sesotho, must we use English? And what that word, how is it going to change and like touch people and not forget? Because, you know, we see so many podcasts and at the end of the day, you forget. Some podcasts like, oh, who's that person? You know, you forget. And she came up with the name Bent, not broken. And I said to her, I like it. Is there anything else? And then she started explaining to me like how she actually shared her life story of how she felt so broken not knowing her father, and now she slowly feels like she's recovering and coming back to herself. So she felt like, as much as she felt like she was bent, but she came back, and she feels like, you know, she's not broken. She's putting herself into a place of healing, into understanding, and actually understand who she is as a person. So that's where the name came from, Bent Not Broken. And every now and then in our podcast, we put the but. We look at each other.
But yeah.
We put the but.
Bent but not broken. Yeah.
Yeah, but not broken. But the podcast is Bent Not Broken.
Okay. Sharon, what did you think of the name? I mean, when you were invited to join this project?
Sure. I think, like Maggie said, it's about telling your own story. I think I could see myself. Firstly, I had to associate with the theme and look at my own life and say, yo, do you know how many times I've had like drastic things happen to me that could have finished me off, but somehow I keep sprouting and people don't understand. How is she doing? How is she having a comeback every other year? You know? So for me, it was firstly identifying both with the business side of things, where many times I've lost a couple of businesses, and also on a personal side, relationships that fell through, being a single mother. Then I definitely said, this name resonates with me.
Oh, that's lovely. I think what we should do, we're going to take a look at some of the highlights, a short video on the highlights of the podcast, and then I'm going to ask us to take one episode at a time, just to get a sense of what people can expect on particularly the first 6 episodes. Let's take a look at that short video.
My name is Maggie and Sharon.
I am the co-host. My name is Sharon Moatse.
Welcome to Bent But Not Broken.
We are going to have frank conversations here.
As we talked about the unemployment that we have in our country.
So you repeat the cycle that your father literally put your mother in, but then you say you're not like your dad. Every time you see a guest on this podcast, you must know it's going down.
I'm not an advocate. I'm not Madlanga. I'm not those ladies. Hello, I am me.
Yes.
You know?
Our title for this podcast is Bent But Not Broken. And what does the phrase mean to you?
Sharon, I think that's a very powerful phrase.
I own my convictions.
Yeah.
I'm unapologetic when I show up. I'm not here, I don't sell ice cream.
And being bullied like that, and then come back home and look after your sister.
Oh, wow, that's a taste of things to come, I suppose. Let's start with the first episode that talks about women in the front line, or single mothers on the front line. I mean, that sounds quite powerful. It's like you are in the trenches as such. Take it away there, Maggie.
So we sit down and we're doing this workshop. And we like, okay, the topics. What's the first topic? What's the first topic we want to talk about? And the first part was mothers. Every human being here on earth is because of a mother. All of us are here because a mother gave birth to you. And we are so blessed to be here because our mothers made a decision, and with our fathers, to say, I am keeping this child. And we find that most of the time, the person that's left behind in that whole process of raising a human being is a mother. And we thought, let's start with the mothers on the front line. We see soccer players, we see basketball players, we see sports players. most of them, you ask them about their mother, you can see the joy they have, the tearing up they have. When was the last time you called your mom? The one guy normally, when you see these shots, you'll be like, I call my mom this morning, I call her every day. And you see, even men, when they talk about their mothers, it's a rare situation where a person didn't really have a nice experience with their mothers. But this episode of Mothers on the Front Line, we were also blessed to have two amazing ladies. We had Ms. Diane James from Action SA, and we had Miss Wendy. She wrote a beautiful book. So that was an amazing episode, to be honest. It was about mothers and taking accountability, taking responsibility, making sure the home is nice and warm.
Yeah, Sharon, what was your takeaway from this particular episode?
That mothers are humans. We do make mistakes. In most cases, people online feel like we are praising mothers too much. Even Father's Day, we'll be wishing mothers a happy Father's Day, simply because we always talk about men who leave. But I was more interested to understand, do we sometimes have a role in men leaving? Let's be honest about the conversations. Are we allowing men to see their children? Do we use children as weapons? So yes, we can talk about the aspect of the challenges, or let me not say they are our challenges, because I'm also a mother, but I also wanted us to be honest about some of the things that we're not doing right, that we could do better on. So it was quite an eye-opening podcast. To also see the community that rallies behind mothers. I think that was the most central thing, was the communities that we've been able to build that help us raise our children as single mothers. And that was key for me.
Yeah. And then, Maggie, I mean, do you think that there is, in a sense, a deficit of conversations around what single mothers go through? And is this linked maybe to the fact that the statistics say that there's what 50% of marriages fail, and so on? I mean, this come up, and how do we generate so many single mothers in our society?
Well, and Dr. JJ, let's be honest, right? Even back in the days, the father would go and work, like from KZN, Eastern Cape, would go work at Goli. And the people who be left are the aunties, the grandmothers, and the mothers. Until then, the mother will get a job, emakishini, and then the child is still left with a grandmother who's like a mother. So you find that a mother has played a role throughout the history. A mother is always that person who's there to give birth to you, breastfeed you, and carry on with you through your graduation, until the end. You get married, you give birth as a mother, you still want your mother to be there. So mothers have played such a big role in our lives that it can never it can never be taken away. But we also have fathers. We have fathers that have played a motherly role. We have fathers that have played a motherly role. And this episode actually made me to look and understand how important for our kids to come out of a household with two parents. Yes, mothers, there's a lot of, we have generated a lot of mothers who are single, actually parents, but also we do have those single fathers. So the beauty of it is that it has happened since back in time, but we still see it now, but we also want to promote a household where there's a mother and a father.
Absolutely. Sharon, can we pick it up on there and to your second episode that cheekily, I must say, asks, where are the fathers? I think the only thing you didn't say is, where the hell are the fathers?
Absolutely. I think I had to talk myself into being objective the whole interview, because I knew I was going to come and ask them, Mara, what is wrong with you guys?
Yeah.
I find it that it's such a straightforward thing for fathers. You just have to show up. In most cases, women do everything. All we need for you to do is just show up and mentor these children.
Yeah.
because we do the school runs, we do everything, but still batlolea. And then we say, okay, if you can't show up, give us money to raise the children. Now we
Yeah.
have to go to maintenance court. I honestly do not know.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's crazy. So it was
Yeah.
so nice hearing from men who say, no, we want to be present. We do pay maintenance, but
Yeah.
the DNA says these children are not ours. The
Oh
divorce,
no.
the
Oh no.
children are being kept away because of divorce processes.
Yeah.
Now I had to change my whole perspective. Now I had to calm down a little bit because that episode changed my perspective. Hey,
Yeah.
women,
Yeah, but
sometimes.
is that a general thing, or is there general pandemic of absent fathers? Forget about before we get to a point where it says it's not your child or what.
Yes.
I mean, that can't be the majority of cases, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think people who become fathers sometimes they don't have a mental check in that JJ. A woman is pregnant and for 9 months you're preparing yourself mentally that there's someone coming that I have a sole responsibility to. I think some men, they only realize when the child graduates varsity, my son is a pilot. It only registers to them when they can benefit from being a father. For the meantime that they have to invest in this child, they have no business doing it. That's why you can see them planting many children all over the country and only coming back years later with kumbule kaya to say, no, I'm sorry, my things are not going well. So I think men generally need to process the fact that I'm about to be a father whilst the partner is still pregnant during the pregnancy, and research how can I show up, because mothers naturally have a motherly instinct. I think we're born with it. With men, they need to cultivate it and condition their mind that now I need to show up.
Yeah. Maggie, just pick on that issue and say, I mean, what came out of that episode that would be solutions to this issue of, if you like, the involvement of fathers in their children's lives?
Sharon, the way she puts it is it's the same way how I felt, because I was like thinking, yeah, fathers matter, they're bad, and then we had Butlwazi's story, and then your mind started playing games with you, and then you actually realize that we need to understand that we're dealing with human beings in that JJ. It's not a gender thing. I've come to a point where you're dealing with human beings, because as much as our mothers are out there playing that role, there are mothers that are preventing their kids from seeing the father. That emotional abuse, that financial abuse, that it's such a sad thing, because we also get to a point where you're like, a child needs to see both parents, and when a father is absent, we want to hear the stories of why you are absent from your child's life, but also we want to bring you in and say, what are the solutions? What can we do to bring you in and be a present father at home? And we pleading with our sisters that they should really, as long as the father is not abusive to the child, let the child see the father, let the child bond with the father, and the fathers must step up. Definitely, fathers must step up.
Yeah. Very, very, very interesting. Who did you have for this particular episode? I'm curious.
Sharon, go for it.
So the first guest we had when we were brainstorming, we had Dingan Kumalo on Where Are the Fathers, and because he's been such an advocate for men seeing or having access to their children, we've seen the story on many platforms. So we found that maybe someone like him could give us a different perspective as to why fathers are absent. And then the other guest we had was Butlwazi, whom I met at a launch, Wendy Figland, the mothers on the front line. And I remember during her launch, her book launch, there's a gentleman, a buff guy, that just raised his hand and said, listen, I understand you guys are single mothers, but what about us who we raise children, and after a couple of years you find out that the child is not yours and there's no legal implications of that. Everybody just says to you, oh, I'm sorry, and then life has to continue. I knew I had to get this guy on this podcast because he's been a present father for 5 or 6 years prior to knowing that he's not the actual father. So I wanted them to speak out for themselves as to why they were not present, and the stories were mind-blowing.
Wow, wow. I mean, the whole issue of divorce, which it seems like a pandemic in the country, then results in blended families because people then, try again. I know the statistics still say the second marriages are the worst. They also 60% of them fail, which means that you then have round three, and all of that means that suddenly you've got 2 or 3 ex families in law. You got children that belong to that partner or from the previous marriage. It brings up us to the issue of blended families, which is a subject of your third episode. Tell me a little bit about that. How did that come across? I mean, that is, I mean, so many families are dealing with that, and it's not always easy.
A blended family was actually a very an interesting episode. First of all, my kids live a blended family. I'm a divorced woman, and my kids have a stepmom, and they visit daddy, and they have half sisters and brothers. So I have lived that. I have seen how the kids will come back and share stories, and then I don't know what happens on the other side, but I know that they come back and we laugh and we pray together. And a blended family is something that is happening so much in South Africa. And the challenges of that, of just a blended family, because remember, these kids are almost like growing in 2 homes in Tati JJ. They are growing in homes where there's one rule this side, and when they come in my house, there's no shoes in the house. And then when they go to the other house, hey, you can walk in the house with the shoes in, And it's can I just say this in Tati JJ? I always say this: divorce is such a painful thing. And it's more painful for the kids, because the kids are the ones left with the confusion and adjustment. They have to figure themselves, where do I belong in this household, and where do I belong in this household? Which rules do I follow here, and which rules do I have to follow here? So a blended family, that topic, that episode, it really touched me, because I can relate. I really did relate with it, and realize that sometimes also blended family, it could be an adoption. I tend to foster, and I know sometimes you call me out, you're like, Megs, you can't adopt all these kids in the street. You can't adopt, calm down, slow it down, Megs. You can't keep picking up people, helping everybody. But it's such a passion of growing up in a household where we helped, regardless of who you are. We always pull out our hands and say, the little that I can do for you. So a blended family also put us in a point where we actually had Miss Kim, who happened to also have a girl from Kaelisha that she decided to foster.
Wow. Sharon, please weigh in on the blended family issue. What do you think could help people to navigate issues of blended families?
Hey, before we get there, I think I must acknowledge that I had a life-altering moment when you said to me, Sharon, but are you really a single mother? Because we are so used to being strong as single mothers. Even if you have a partner who steps in, you think you are single. By all accounts, I'm still a single parent. We've made it such a DNA of ours that it's so hard for other people to come in and actually be fathers, because fathers are not genetic sometimes. It's not about biology. It's about the man who steps up and shows up. Yeah. So for me, it's blended families work if the parents make them work.
Absolutely.
You find blended parents on social media wearing matching T-shirts, the stepfathers, the stepmothers, and the children are so happy. It's not easy for the parents to co-parent like that in that kind of a family, or a polygamous family, where you always have to smile, even though there are challenges, but a lot of them will say, I'm doing it for the children. And one of the a series that's trending now is the Polygamist.
Oh, no.
Everyone is going crazy. But I
Yeah.
think if you look at all the women in the polygamist series, they all wanted to protect their children. It was, I'm staying for the kids. I want this polygamy to work for the children. And whether they succeeded or failed, they prioritized the children. So I think in all blended families, if people were to mature, because the truth is relationships end. You cannot be with someone forever the way that you thought it would be. Only God decides. But in a situation where marriages break down, relationships break down, you are forced to blend your family in order for us to have somewhat of a normal family structure, because it's not ideal as a woman to raise a son. Next thing, you now want that son to be your husband when he's older. You don't want him to marry because you did not want to move on and get your own
Yeah.
partner. So blended families work if we make them work.
Wow. 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 Uh, and then, of course, the issue is that people live within a community where there are faith communities, right?
Yeah.
Churches take a particular view. I think a big discussion when we were planning this particular episode was how churches can be either judgmental or non-supportive, etc. Can you pick up that particular theme, Sharon?
Hey, it's such a sensitive theme for me as a pastor's kid. I think you guys know from our strategic sessions. I always want to be very objective because, again, a lot of people, they'll say pastors' kids are the worst.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't beat the allegations. But to be honest, the church plays a big role in that, JJ, because sometimes when a young girl gets pregnant out of wedlock, all eyes are on the young woman. And for men, it's very hard for them to come and apologize in front of the congregation for falling pregnant. So we look at such challenges and how they psychologically affect women. Do they deem themselves worthy to be a part of the church? Are they allowed to serve in the congregation? But also, there's the upside of it where the church gives counseling to such mothers who are broken. The church also does family visits outside of the church structure. So I've personally had a first-hand experience of not having a mother present with me 7 days a week because she has to go and work. And part of that is counseling. Part of that is marital counseling. It's people who are almost about to divorce. So I've seen the church being a critical part of uniting families and uniting marriages that are about to collapse. So when we talk about the church, it's not only the downside of the church, but there's also the ups. And I think with that, I've also learned a lot about the Muslim religion or community or belief, because I think what I had in my mind was totally different from what I experienced while shooting the podcast. And for me, I ended up concluding that it's about faith. If we move religion and we put faith and a belief in something higher than yourself, we can restore communities and we can restore families.
Absolutely. Maggie?
Yeah, the faith one was also very interesting. We had Bishop Ivan. We also had Bishop Pastor Ayanda. I think Bishop or Pastor Ayanda, Dr. Ayanda also. She's got a lot of titles. That's amazing. And we also had Masu Africa. I think if I say it, she's a Muslim lady who teaches Quran. And that episode was so interesting because we got to admit as Christians that there is a problem in our churches when it comes to siblings, raising siblings. We had an issue of fathers in the church not stepping up to widows, because we have widows who still need, who have boy kids who need a father figure. We also acknowledge kids born out of wedlock. And I remember when we were planning, Sharon, we was like, Megs, don't stir the pot. Please, Megs, don't ask, because the pastor is coming representing the church and representing himself. So we don't want to be stirring pots here and asking a lot of difficult questions. But it's just to acknowledge that some of us would get divorced in a church the pastor is either did give counseling before or after the divorce, and then suddenly nobody cares. Some people even think you're there to take their husbands at church, So those things is like, in our communities, we don't talk about it. We don't talk the struggle of a divorced father, a struggle of a divorced mother, fitting in a church where it's almost like you're an odd one out now. You're not a perfect family anymore. And also addressing the kids born out of wedlock. That JJ, in some churches, kids born out of wedlock are not baptized. And we got to learn in Muslim culture, there's something almost similar to that, where the child will not inherit anything just because you are born out of wedlock. How sad is that you carry this title of being an outside, an outcast, just because what happened between you and your parents, between you and what happened. So it was such an awesome, eye-opening episode. I remember even Bishop Ivan sitting, folding hands. The ladies were just chatting, and he was like, "Yo, I wish men could listen and hear the struggles women are actually, and the points that we were bringing up." At the end of the day, we want to rebuild. We want to fix our communities. We really want to fix our communities in that JJ.
Yeah. Do you guys think the church has played a role or has a role to play in all of these conversations? Because they're the ones who gather people every week. And they're those same people who are going through all the things that you have discussed here, are parishioners.
Yes, and that JJ. Look, I'm gonna say it. I'm not staring cross, guys. Don't come, right? We all know it. We're all on social media. We have pastors who buy Lamborghinis, we buy Porsches, who buy all those things. Now, my question is this: can we have a church that boasts that they have 10 doctors in the church? Can we have a church where they boast that they have taken 10 kids to finish matric? Can we have churches where they boast that they have helped 6 kids in varsity, and now they're holding their degrees and their doctorates and PhDs and whatnot?
Yeah.
Can we contribute as churches in the community? Back in the apartheid, pastors were so involved in, first of all, hiding struggle fighters, taking them to university. Some of the freedom fighters actually got education through the church.
Absolutely.
So today, what do we have today to point churches besides feeding? Guys, we understand the feeding scheme is out there, but are we really contributing in terms of building our generation to a better generation?
All right. If you are on the audience and you would like to ask a question, this is the opportunity to engage with the host of Bend Not Broken. It's launching on Sunday at 5 o'clock, and it will be a regular for the next couple of weeks. And we obviously are looking forward to any feedback about how to make it better. Especially beyond the first 6 episodes that we consider as a pilot, to try and get this to be a movement that is continuous, that will deepen conversations. You can raise your hand if you would like to contribute and engage in the conversation. Anybody in the audience who would like to contribute, do raise your hand and I'll recognize you and take those comments forward. Tell me a little bit about the episode Beyond Faith. What else came out of this series that you would say, on a general note, would maybe need to be further explored should there be a second season?
All right. So on my side, because I'm such a feminist, I was so excited to hear from a Muslim feminist. I honestly want us to have more conversations about how the different religions work, simply because we've always assumed that some people are oppressed or women don't have a voice, but actually they're very vocal and they play a huge part in the church or in the mosque. So again, when it comes to faith, one thing that I've noted from that conversation that is that as people, we are governed by moral compass. We are governed by principles. And if these things did not exist, our states or countries would be lawlessness. People would kill each other, would rape each other. There are so many issues in the world simply because there's no moral compass. So if you go into the faith-based, there's Qurans, there's the Bible, that at least helps us to have a conscience or develop a conscience. When you're about to have sex before marriage, you remember the 10 Commandments. You go to the Quran, you remember. So all these things need to be embedded in people so that they know that this is wrong. That's why now we find people that are boasting about going to prison 10 times, about killing, about they no longer have a sense of consciousness. They no longer have a moral compass. There was no one in the community to guide these young men and women as to what is right and what is wrong. That's why we are seeing the slave queen phenomenon becoming such a big thing, that young women can prostitute at the age of 12. There's a place here in Cape Town, I don't want to talk about it, but young women are moving from Khayelitsha Gugulethu to go into this specific place here in Cape Town to go sell themselves and make money. And because the faith-based are only healing people within the church. And I even made a phrase that when Jesus got his disciples, he didn't go for people who were already believers. Jesus went and recruited sinners to convert them into faith. So if we are serious about the church and we don't want to play church, people that need help are outside the church. Until we do that, we'll have a country that looks like what it looks now, because the leaders are only taking care of themselves and people who pay the tithe.
Wonderful. Maggie, please weigh in on that. What are the things that need further exploration, maybe in future episodes?
Yeah, well, Sharon touched so much valid points. I mean, we definitely need to look at this really part in our communities. Muslims, we need to invite more Muslim community and sit down and have a conversation with them and see how they do it right and where they do it wrong and where we can correct each other. I mean, Dr. Ayanda in this faith episode, she said, our churches are sick. And our churches are sick. And until sometimes it's hard to say, if we are sick, we need to first get better and then go out and fix. A quick story, I was in a church after the divorce, the church that I got almost like my marriage church. My son came to me and he was like, Mom, I really don't want to go to this church anymore. So I asked him why. He's like, every Sunday they say it's my birthday. They don't even know my name. And I was like, why? He said, yeah, because they always think I'm this Tabiso now or I'm Tulani now, but I'm just one person with one name and it's not my birthday. And you find that you get to churches that actually themselves, before they can go out in that JJ and try to reach to the communities, churches inside, we need to do better. First with our members, divorce, siblings, raising siblings, widows. First, we need to do the work inside the church, then we can go out, because when we go out, we are healthy and we can bring the healthiness to the community.
All right. Well, I think that we have to wrap it up. I just want to just to recap in terms of the first episode. What can people look forward to? Just give us some more detail there, and then we can wrap up the session, which I believe could be repeated over the weekend to just get people to be excited about the 5 o'clock on Sunday. Sharon?
Yeah, that is AJ. I think people need to watch this podcast. There's so much that we left out that we didn't get to talk about. But I think in a nutshell, there are so many issues in the world that we can only start chipping when we talk about them. And I think Maggie is going to be the best person to sum this up, because I think from the way you envisioned, I think the podcast was executed the way that you envisioned it in your head. Yeah.
Yeah, Maggie.
And that JJ, a lot is coming. I think we're gonna work our heads, because we need a venting space. Can we please have a space where parents? I just read one comment from Anthony. He actually says, great conversation. However, I think we also need to give props to present fathers, something that is not done often enough in our communities. And I mean, we definitely need to give props to our fathers. So there's a lot that is coming where fathers also can vent and say, guys, no one is listening to me. I'm fighting this case. And sometimes venting makes you feel better. I remember venting one day on X Space, complaining that my kid is in this expensive school and this rich child stole my child's blazer. I was pissed. And I wanted to vent. And other parents came in to say, yeah, also this. And then we actually got a space where you felt better afterwards, because you're not going to take out your frustration on your child. You were with other adults and you were able to vent your frustration. And then when you get to your child, you're like, okay, my boy, let's see what we're going to do now, how we're going to move forward. The other part in that, JJ, we need to address the youth. We need to have a chillers with the youth and say, what is it that you feel like your parent doesn't understand? And how can we then unite parents and kids? Because my kids say it's so, what do they say? I think millennium. Mommy, why is your poster so millennium? Why is this? We need to get that connection between our kids and the parents, where we can have this conversation and understand that, yes, I'm coming from a different generation. I understand your generation. Can we work together?
Yeah. And I mean, do you think there's enough conversations, particularly about the role of fathers, and getting more of them, the voices of men in these conversations? Or do you think there is maybe a lot more defensiveness? So if men get involved, then they fear they'll be bashed and shot at. Sharon?
Obviously, that is JJ. Obviously, because being a social media content creator, I once made a post that men will hate their fathers for what they did to their mothers, but somehow they end up becoming like those fathers. And men were so angry, like, you're disrespecting us. No, guys, we need to have honest conversations, because you become that which you hate. But again, I've seen that social media now has this narrative that no longer believes in marriage. Like, they're trying to push this conversation that marriage doesn't work. They're trying to push this conversation that men are absent. And those maybe 10% who are present, when they try to speak up, they are being crushed, which I understand what you're saying, Anthony. Someone made a post and said, when men are showing up, we can't congratulate a fish for swimming. And I said, that is ridiculous, because being a man is a very difficult role. Being a provider and actually showing up as a father figure, as a mentor, it takes a lot. And I really want to commend the men that are doing very well. We see you, we respect you, we thank you. And those of us who can continue to advocate and celebrate men like you, Ntate JJ, present fathers, present husband, we will always do that and give you your flowers, so that others can see that we are celebrating you. Because if we ignore you, some men who are negative or absent will think that their actions are okay, because we're always talking about strong women, independent mothers. We're not congratulating those who are doing well.
No, absolutely. I mean, maybe one of the things that you must look at is issues of dialogues amongst the men themselves, where you maybe have an episode in the future where you just have a dialogue of a few selected men and see what their perspectives are. And then for example, you'll see in the conversations around Women's Month, the issue is half of the things that are a problem. Let's say if you look at gender-based violence, you can't just talk about gender-based violence amongst women, because half the time it's not women who are beating each other up, it's men who are beating the women. And then if they are excluded from those conversations, it means that we are going to struggle to get a handle on the issue of gender-based violence, which I don't think it has featured too prominent in your first season, but it's a big scourge. In fact, that may have resulted in actually many divorces that you are talking about.
Definitely, that JJ, we definitely gonna need to look at that. And femicide is such a big thing in South Africa. We definitely need to sit down and talk. There's so much that season 2 is gonna be longer than 6, hopefully. So there's gonna be quite a lot of work, and really, and people, please do suggest, do put down. Join us, follow, like, and do suggest other topics that you feel like our communities need to talk about, and people that you would like us to actually have in our studios.
All right. I think with this will bring us to the end. But your parting shots as we say goodbye, and look forward to Sunday at 5. We need popcorn.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think people need to watch the podcast, not because they're here for gossip, because I know a lot of people follow podcasts because, yay, did you hear that story? But to actively want to be a part of change. I think being there, listening, and saying, how can I be a part of the change? But the podcast is more about impact, creating impact and changing situations. We're not here to tell gossip or tell stories. We want people to be convicted and ask, how can I make a difference? So if we do have psychologists, if we do have people that can make a difference in our guests' lives, I would love that so much, so that our guests can find healing, restoration, and to remember that they're actually not broken.
Right. Maggie, your last word?
Look, this is going to be an exciting podcast. Please do join us. There's so much that we need to address in our communities, and we're willing to get as much information as we can. And I'm excited. I'm just too excited for Sunday. The episode is amazing.
Wonderful. I'm going to end with that highlights video as we say goodbye. Thank you very much for everyone who has joined on various platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, everyone. And then we're looking forward to Sunday at 5 o'clock when we put up the first episode of Bent and Broken. Until we talk frankly again, may God bless you all. Bye-bye.
My name is Maggie and Sharon.
I'm the co-host. My name is Sharon Moatse.
Welcome to Bent But Not Broken.
We are going to have frank conversations here.
As you talked about the unemployment that we have in our country.
So you repeat the cycle that your father literally put your mother in, but then you say you're not like your dad. Every time you see a guest on this podcast, you must know it's going down.
I'm not an advocate. I'm not Madlanga. I'm not those ladies. Hello, I am me.
Yes.
You know?
Our title for this podcast is Bent But Not Broken. And what does the phrase mean to you?
Sharon, I think that's a very powerful phrase.
I own my convictions.
Yeah.
I'm unapologetic when I show up. I'm not here, I don't sell ice cream.
And being bullied like that, and then come back home and look after your sister.